onto the AFC South with Go Texans.
So it's Will Anderson. Will Anderson,
Ah,
to me, yes, I like CJ Stroud, but to
yeah,
get arguably or inarguably the best defensive player, drafting or trading up to get the best defensive player, and I think that he has a better shot to be impact player day one with just his physical abilities than maybe
yeah,
CJ Stroud.
right.
I think that they knocked that one out the park. Getting argue he and you even said it. He could have arguably been the number one overall pick in general if Bryce Young wasn't there. So I'll probably say Will Anderson.
Not going to be mad about Will Anderson. I know exactly what you mean about him having that immediate impact. CJ Stroud would have to depend on, some greater offensive presence, which I think the Texans will make enough moves to make it work out. I am going to go CJ Stroud though because I feel like at the same time, ironically, he can also have that immediate impact because he is the quarterback, because he was the second overall pick, because they know that Davis Mills is not going to be the quarterback. And that's why they did, after blowing all of the smoke and mirrors and trying to fake everybody out. I knew it was going to be CJ Stroud. Talks about Will Anderson and all these other players, but I think CJ Stroud was the Texans' best pick. Titans.
So the Titans, they didn't have the best draft in my opinion,
Right.
as we know. Um, and there's a lot they had a lot of issues that they could have addressed. So and I think it really depends on their whoever their quarterback is going to be. So I'll probably say even though it was a little bit of reach, Patrick what Skorkiny.
Oh, Peter Skoronsky?
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's Peter Skoronsky.
You're
I mean
good.
he was one of the best offensive linemen, but I don't think they had a good draft really in general.
Yeah.
And I mean, you could say Will Levis, but we just talked about
No.
is that going to be good? Or Josh White. I do like Josh White out of Cincinnati. That probably was number two for me, but
Okay.
I'll probably go with Peter.
Yeah, definitely Peter Skoronsky as well. You see Taylor Lewan becoming a free agent. Really hate that because he was one of the top linemen in the league. Of
Mhm.
course, they need to bring in someone to replace him. Going to have Will Levis needed to be protected. Derrick Henry needs to be able to bust through the line because there's clearly not a lot of offensive presence, if any, here with the Tennessee Titans. So I'm going to double down with Peter Skoronsky. Here could be a controversial one for people. The Colts.
I think it was Anthony Richardson. I think they have been looking for the quarterback of the future since Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
And while yes, I do think he is a raw talent, I think his ceiling is incredibly high if he refines his game and you put, pairing him with Michael Pittman is huge.
right.
And of course Jonathan Taylor. So I think they got the third best quarterback in the draft. And I will say this: I think they got the third best quarterback in the draft. But to be completely honest, I think if we're talking about overall potential, they could have arguably got the best quarterback in the draft if he's able
Right.
to tap in and spend the VC points that they, that they can on him. So I'll say Anthony Richardson.
I love that you just made the reference to VC because that's literally what's going to need to happen with Anthony Richardson. It's just ramping up the attributes quick. And they even
Yeah.
came out and said the best way for him to learn is going to be for him to play, which of course we know that. But watching Anthony Richardson take an NFL snap, week one as a starter after only playing 13 games is definitely going to be interesting. As much as I wanted to go Anthony Richardson, I just really don't know about him. He's a big boomer bust. We're depending on really everything to happen for him so he can become this player. Again, it's Trey Lance 2.0. I like the out of Borway pick from Northwestern, the edge that they got, but I'm going to go Josh Downs, wide receiver out of UNC. Anthony Richardson will more than likely be throwing to him. And I just think their draft was interesting. Out of all the players, I almost wanted to go out of Borway, the edge,
Mhm.
but they have a good bit. Well, not a good bit, but I believe more in their defense, and their, defensive line front seven than I do their wide receiving core. So Josh Downs coming in, definitely a good pick for them. Jaguars.
Brenton Strange. I think
Okay.
it was an interesting pick, but
Yeah.
it gives
Value.
Trevor Lawrence yet another weapon to deal and a big body, and he's being out of Penn State. He's a really good blocking tight end as well, and as we
Yeah.
know, that was a kind of a problem for the Jaguars protecting Trevor Lawrence and of course Trevor Lawrence interception history. But I think Brenton Strange probably was their best draft pick in my opinion.
Heard that. I'm not mad about that at all. Good value there as well. I'm gonna go Tank Bigsby, the running back out of Auburn. I think he's
Mm.
really going to be that complimentary number 2 back to Travis Etienne. I think they only had Jermichael Hasty, and I can't remember the other running back. If that's the correct team I'm thinking of, on the roster. I would say Anton Harrison, but the Jags had the 5th best O line last year in terms of sacks given up. So I'm going to go Tank Bigsby here